Hey, welcome back to the Pomona's Promise Network podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Quinones, and today in studio we have special guest, Larry Ortega, a third-generation Pomonian.
Hey, what's happening, Andrew? How are you, man? Good to see you, brother.
Yes, I'm good.
Yeah, hey, congratulations on this, too, man. I really, I'm so impressed by your operation here and what you're doing and the mission that you've kind of launched here for us. Much needed, from a long time ago, man. So it's so really good to see, you getting this off the ground and making it happen. And thank you. I'm humbled by your invitation to share my story. Thank you very much for that.
All right. You're very welcome. Larry, so thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it. You and I both love Pomona. Of course, you've been here and your family's been here a lot longer than I have. How many generations?
Yeah, the grandma was here in 1903, so we got about 23 years, 26 years.
Wow.
That we've been here.
Yeah.
And my dad, born, raised, now buried, worked for the school district a long time. My mom was a teacher's aide over at Alcott for 24 years, and I went to Alcott and Simons and got in too much trouble there. So mom and dad said, "Hey, man, we're sending you to an all-boys Catholic school now. See how you like that."
Which one did you go to?
Damien.
All right.
Yeah,
Damien.
I ended up going to Damien, and it kind of saved my life. I kind of changed my perspective in terms of, at that point in time, a lot of Latinos, Chicanos were not going to, college, very few. Right. And many had it on their decision bar, am I going to go, am I not going to go? And what Damien did for me was took that away and kind of put it in front of me in terms of which college am I going to?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different perspective, and I'm really appreciative because you have a lot of people, competitive people, going to Annapolis and, Harvard and, all this other schools, which I had no idea what they were talking about, man, when they were like throwing it down. I mean, it was a funny story when, my counselor my high school counselor says, "Hey, man, looks like you qualify for DeVry." And I was like, "Yeah, man, cool, man." I did, I was like, I'm going to go somewhere, like Arizona, and, not realizing, and not that it's a bad thing that it was a trade school, and it was, pretty much no-brainer. Mostly everybody could get into that school. And, I never worked hard in my grades, man. It didn't really, focus in terms of what it meant or anything. I saw everyone else, kind of trying to kill it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually until my last year at Cal Poly. I was on a 9-year program,
Nine-year program, all right.
Bachelor of Arts with business, computer information systems. And I was in my last quarter in the 9th year where I kind of took off from work and I just studied and ended up getting like 4 A's and a B, And then I jumped into law school and I got a couple of years of law school under my belt and decided that my mission was really with community and technology and running an opportunity, running a program that would give other kids opportunities. So we came over here to the Boys and Girls Club in Pomona, and we did a collaborative effort working with some of the kids that were in independent study over at Fremont. Homies thought they were all bad, cholos, wannabe cholos, whatever. And we did this program out there. And what I did, my whole goal was just to introduce them into kind of like CIS 101, what the basics were of a computer, what a bit, what a byte, what a character was, how the PC, the internal computer parts worked. Man, those guys, they turned their lives around, man. I mean, one of the kids actually ended up representing his class in Washington, D.C. in the robotics club.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah. The very next year, I ran into his sister, and she says, "Yeah, he's doing great." And I was like, I got something. At that point, I realized that all the kids need to do is you got to just put it in front of them, have them see it, that there might be other opportunity there.
The power of mentorship, huh?
Oh, my gosh, it's amazing, so they can see it, and then they feel it, and then they go after it. So the kid, one of the kids, Joseph Corral, if you're out there, brother, contact me, man, wherever you're at, man. I want to see how you're doing. He was in the program and ended up wanting to be a computer trainer after, he saw what we were doing. And I had a lot of that. I had a lot of the kids that, wanted to turn to computer training. We did a program out in Ontario, and then we ended up going statewide. And quickly realized in 2008, kids were like to computers, technology like fish to water.
Yes.
So the need of that program at that time kind of switched, and then we realized that parents, particularly Spanish-speaking parents, got leapfrogged over the whole technology explosion, man. They were like really out of it, didn't know what the kids were getting into. And so we started a program called the Parent Engagement Through Technology Program.
Parent Engagement Through Technology Program.
Yeah, and we jumped all in on that one, and that one became very successful. In fact, that's one of my pride and joys is just seeing the parents afterward, 10 years later, seeing that their kids graduated from college, from high school, and are doing well now, and it's amazing. I mean, you know that success, Andy. You know how
absolutely
after you catch up with people, after you've kind of helped them get on the right path, and it really didn't have anything to do with me as much as it did with just pointing them in what other opportunities were available.
Right.
You know, it was nothing special that I was doing, but except just giving
I'm sure
them the
you were
information.
doing something special.
You know.
But Larry, you know, like I said, you and I, of course, you have generations of being here in Pomona. I only started hanging out here in my high school years in 1990, and we've seen Pomona grow. Let's say in the last 20 to 30 years. I'm sure when you're a teenager, and of course when I was a teenager, there was a lot of violence and conflict, black against brown, brown against brown. Youth killings, the human trafficking was still there. I mean, Pomona, from an outside perspective, seemed like a mess, and other communities really would not want to engage or send their children to this city. However, I want to say over the last 20 years almost, as things have changed, I got to tell you, the power of mentorship and people like yourself or like myself or like an Eric Vasquez or I could name a dozen people that really took a liking to making a difference in the life of youth in Pomona, so that we can transform this place. Right. And this is why I created this podcast in the sense where, when I would Google Pomona, a lot of negative stuff would come up. Yeah. So I made it a personal mission of my own to try to create as much positive content coming out of Pomona. Talk to people like you that are out there making an effort to improve this city. Right. So that when somebody Googles Pomona, things good come up. Right. The light comes out rather than the darkness. Right. Right. So today we're here because you're on a path. You're on a very special path, and I after you sharing some of your path with me, I had to get you in here because I think it's very important that we engage the community, share the information, and really give the community a call to action on this subject in particular. Yeah. So tell us, why are we here?
Really important. Got billions of dollars that the Biden administration has allocated towards upgrading our infrastructure in and throughout California. And it's called the BEAD program, BEAD. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but it represents about $1.83 billion that the state is going to get from the feds.
Did you say $1 billion?
Billion with the B.
1.8?
Yeah. 1.83 billion.
$3 billion, wow.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of money. Yeah.
But that's for all America, right?
No, that's just for California.
Oh, that's just for California. Wow.
Yeah, all America is going to get 42.5 billion at the end of the day. So I've been working on this thing for the last 3 years because I knew it was coming, and I've been talking to leaders up and down the San Gabriel Valley, all the way into San Bernardino. I mean, one of our most recent meetings was with Majority Leader Emeritus Eloise Reyes, and we have pulled in the superintendent and the mayor of San Bernardino and a couple other leaders, and we wanted to impress upon her that we needed her to begin advocating for us, that we need to make sure that everybody knows that this money's coming down and that the legislation that is being introduced needs to be in support of that. Yes. But there's a lot of bills that are out there. I mean, what's happening is that the industry is so powerful, the wireless industry and what I call the incumbent providers, the AT&T, the Verizons, the Frontiers, they have a monopoly, right? I mean, they were at one time called state utilities, right? They were like an Edison,
Yes.
like the SoCal Gas, and they were heavily regulated in that instant. But there was a law that was passed in 2012 that kind of deregulated them. And there were some individuals, and I'll get into the other part of that story, that were part of facilitating making sure that the companies would not get in trouble if they didn't deploy fiber optic infrastructure upgrades to certain communities. What that ended up being, which you and I are familiar with, is redlining.
Redlining.
Right? So it's
Right.
digital redlining, right?
Redlining.
They're saying, like, we're not going to make any money in this part of the town, so we're not going to give those people fiber optics. And this bill that passed, right, it's PU 710, was cited as being the problem of creating the digital divide in the first place. So what has been happening is that the phone companies for the last 2 to 3 decades, if you ever had a landline, I don't know if you remember the landlines,
I sure
right?
do.
We always got like extra fees and extra charges that were on those bills.
Interesting.
Well, it turns out a friend of mine from New York, Bruce Kushnick, wrote a book and said that about 500 billion with a B dollars had been collected in that time span over the last 3 decades to do upgrades to fiber optics.
Oh, wow.
To which these guys did not execute. They actually took that money and diverted it someplace else.
Yeah, yeah.
And we know that to be a fact because we have the digital divide.
Yeah.
Because there's certain communities that cannot connect.
So now, before you go ahead, Larry,
Yeah.
I think we jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
For people that are just tuning in,
Sure.
In a simple way, if you had a magic wand, what would change here in Pomona? What are you fixing to change or to improve?
We want pricing to come down for the internet.
Okay, so we're talking about internet, right?
We're talking about the internet.
Okay.
We want pricing to come down
Pricing to come down.
to be on par with some of the other cities, model cities that are doing it in other places in our country, right?
Yes.
Like a place called Far, Texas. There's a place called Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yes.
Those are model cities that have implemented what is called municipal broadband.
Municipal broadband.
And that's a broadband, that's like an internet company that the city itself is running,
Okay.
right? So what they've done
Like
is
community banking.
something like community banking, exactly.
We take the
Similar
responsibility
concept.
within our own.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so the city then at that point turns what is a cost center right now, it costing them money, into a revenue center. So it flips it all on its side.
Okay.
And it's able to offer high-speed internet, 500 megabits up and down, for $25 a month.
So for $25, so right now, again, I have a small nonprofit business. I know we're probably spending about $200. I just needed to increase my bandwidth because I'm doing this podcast studio, and not a lot of people are we're using all these electronics, so it started slowing down.
Right.
I've heard about fiber optics, and I heard that it's like 10 times faster than what we have right now.
10,000.
10,000 times faster. And so let me get this correct. For you envision a Pomona where we, as a city, kind of own our own
Exactly.
fiber optics, and we're creating revenue, and all our community has the fiber optic option rather than it's not dial-up, but broadband or whatever it is.
It's still, there are in some places it's still dial-up, and now the big push is wireless.
Yes.
Right, everybody's thinking
5G, is that, when
right,
we talk about wireless?
5G is being pushed as an alternative.
Right.
And it's not, man. It's third tier. So this is what I wanted to
third
talk.
tier. Okay.
This is what I wanted to talk to you
Okay.
about, man. Is that
Talk away,
what's
man.
happening is that we are being bombarded by the wireless industry,
Yeah.
by wireless interests. In that, yeah, man, we can connect everybody up right now, and we could do it cheap, and you can have it right now. Like what is the advertisement that's out there? T-Mobile has you can get internet like right now,
Yeah.
right? And they throw a device in your house, and then like bam, you got it. But what they're not telling you is that actually subverts the bigger plan of trying to get access to these fiber optic
Right.
dollars. Because then what happens is that the fiber optic dollars, by the way, and I forgot to mention this, is based on need, right?
Need.
And so what we found out from the pandemic when that all hit, and you remember,
Yeah.
a lot of our kids got the little Wi-Fi devices, the MiFi devices, to go home. And then when we found out quickly was that if there was two kids on that same device at the same time, it was game over. They could not access, they couldn't get to class. And when we found out is that the wireless industry is, they're not ready, right? They don't have it together to offer a competitive alternative to fiber optics. And fiber optics is 20, 30 years future-proof.
Right.
Wireless, right? I mean, how many times you replace your cell phone in a matter of 5 years? Yeah. Right, a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I just replaced mine recently.
So that is the design model of wireless technology.
Right.
So yes, in a 2-year window, you can actually get a community wired. It's possible for maybe half the cost of what it would cost to do it fiber optically, right, with fiber. But in a 10-year window, right, you've now had to replace that wireless infrastructure 2, 3, maybe 4, even 5 times in a 10-year window. Right. Now your cost is just double, triple. Yeah. You know, and it's less quality. So wireless, as according to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, said that wireless is 10,000 times slower than fiber optics. Right. And we know that to be true because of all of our kids and the capacity during the COVID, you know. So they want to do more wireless and you know, it's not the best alternative. And it will serve to not allow us to get access to the full, you know, chunk of money that we should be getting here in Pomona. So that's really important.
Now, there's a few things that I think about. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. But maybe you are. And so I'm going to run a couple things by you just to kind of bounce some ideas from things that we hear in the community and little things that we hear in history. Yeah. So the first thing is I think of the word planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence. Yeah. And you know, I heard the story of the light bulb, and the first light bulbs they created last a very long time. And then manufacturers all got together and say, we can't have this, nobody's buying new light bulbs. So they started called planned obsolescence, where it only had so many hours of light before they had to buy a new light bulb. Right. And then we think about cannabis hemp. You know, the petrochemical industry came in creating nylon and all these other things when they could have used hemp for, you know, newspapers or toilet paper. So I mean, there's a dozen examples within history. Yeah. I mean, you could look at iPhones, you know, planned obsolescence. You have to get one every year. So it seems like, again, the American way, the capitalist way, is to create the consistent need for people to be spending more money and creating more junk so that they can keep on buying every so often.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that's how the wireless industry has done no different than these other industries that you just cited. Right. It's the exact same thing. And that is something that they're fighting very hard for. But the problem, I guess the biggest challenge, Andy, is that our legislators, you know, are not on board or do not understand right now. And the reason why they don't understand, and I'm glad, again, thank you for the invitation for having me come speak out here, is because our constituency, the people, their constituency don't understand, right? They don't know there's a gigantic difference between wireless and fiber optics. Moreover, they don't know about the $1 billion that are, you know, already earmarked. They're like, oh yeah, Pomona, low income folks, let's get them some money, right? Like that. So there's these, you know, things that are already in place set to benefit communities like Pomona. Right. But unless we can educate them all, have them understand that this opportunity is out there, which would mean jobs. Right. I mean, there was an economic report done on what it did for Chattanooga. It was like in the billions of dollars in economic benefit that was generated as a result of them going completely fiber. Yeah. Same thing for Far Texas. They're experiencing the same thing. It's almost like it's a no-lose situation. Right. You know,
no, somebody's a lose. And those are the traditional wireless company that continue to rake in the money year after year. And I tell you, like I said, I even had to upgrade at my house because it just seems slow. We think so fast and to have to wait for things. And fiber optics, again, is a wonderful solution. Yes. to fill in the gap, right?
And it's an unprecedented opportunity, Andy.
Yeah.
This money is never going to be here again.
Yeah.
It's like a once in a lifetime. And the powers that be are working very hard to make sure that they keep us ignorant, in the dark,
Yeah.
on the issue. I mean, this is some stuff that went down at because there's two programs that are headed our way. There's a thing called the last mile, and then there's the thing called the middle mile as it relates to getting fiber optic connectivity. The state of California, through a governor's proposal, is committing another $6.5 billion to do the middle mile. And so Pomona was set to get their middle mile, all laid out and everything. And then when we found out a few weeks ago, is that they completely changed the maps, and then all of a sudden Pomona was no longer.
Really?
Yeah. And so what's happening is that there's these players that are playing at this level that is, no accountability,
Yeah.
no transparency. And then, when they publish stuff, they're not honest about like how they got to that spot.
Right.
And so during this meeting, there was a lot of people that kind of, pushed back on the idea that, where like it was, for example, Compton was supposed to get it, then they were off. Pomona was supposed to get it, then they were off. Oakland was supposed to get it, then they were off.
So who's making these decisions? Are there?
Well, we still don't know. We still don't know. So we went to this.
Huh?
We went to this meeting, and we says that was the first question out of my mouth as I commented. I said, like, who's making these decisions? Like, who does this, right? And there, of course, there was no answer at that time. But hopefully, the report from that meeting will come out and disclose that.
Yeah.
So they came back. This group, there's the Department of Technology, and they have, at least I know he is on it. And I can't remember the cat's name. I want to say Monroe, but he was one of the leaders in terms of like giving input relative to where the middle mile was going to go.
Yeah.
So we all as a group collectively jammed them up and said, "Hey man, what's up with this?" And then they came back. Their response was, "Oh, hey, we made a mistake. It's actually 2 phases." They kind of backpedaled a little bit, and we're going to do it in 2 phases, and we only did phase 1, and y'all are going to be part of phase 2. Don't worry about it. But I mean, are we all professionals, or what, man? I mean, we could have probably had said that at that point in time, right? And known about it. So there's all that going on. That's just one example of many that I can cite to you in terms of like, because there's so much money coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And the community's just not really like looking for it or aware of it, but we need to make them aware. And what the benefits are, the jobs, again, the access to resources. You think about, when you think about telehealth and telemedicine and having our moms not have to go into the clinic, but rather can do it online,
right.
If they have the right access, what a difference in their life, that would make. I mean, it's tremendous,
right.
So
absolutely.
The connectivity, the job training, all of what, we have expectations for right now is dependent upon the infrastructure. And what will happen, Andy, see the consequence of us not finding out about what's going on and not getting educated is we're going to be left like right where we are today through the next decade, man.
Yeah. So Larry, okay, so the second thing I want to bring up, from what I understand, they got a big fiber optic cable running all the way through the Atlantic Ocean to like England or to Europe, like to our country. So there's fiber optic that it's not in the air like telephone wires, but they buried it underground. And the reason I say that because I think of part of Pomona, and called Phillips Ranch, right? And if you go through Phillips Ranch, I don't see any telephone poles and a bunch of electric wires going overhead. I mean, I believe everything is underground, and it makes the city a lot nicer. And if we had an earthquake, there wouldn't be a bunch of, wires coming down, causing a maybe potentially harmful situation to people. Fiber optic cables also, they're not carried above ground; they're carried below ground. Is that correct? Or
yeah, the preference is to to bury them. That's kind of the best way. But there's models now that architecture rather that's being deployed that runs them along the poles.
Okay.
And it runs them along
that already pre-existing.
Yeah, that already there, and it kind of runs them along the same wires, right. And to get it done right. So there's that. There's
right.
that they can do it with. But the first thing is really to get the community on board. And so I've been working with the group that's right there on 8th and White with Tomas Ursua's group. They call it the Semillas Centro de Semillas, I think is what it's called. And we're going to be doing a computer training there. And right in December, we're going to launch our program called the Technology Redeployment Program, where we're going to teach kids, high school age and young college kids how to refurbish computers, how to refurbish the older computers, which serve really just to kind of get email, basic Gmail, access to, all the Google products, which is equivalent to a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? So we'll teach that. But the fun thing is this program that I did in East LA and also in other spaces, but it brings the community in. They learn how to refurbish the computer. At the end of the program, they get to take that computer home. So what we want to be able to do is have families be able in a position to take a computer home and then connect it to, whatever internet access that they have at that point. So it's not a new computer, but it's a refurbished computer. But moreover, the families learn about the technical skills and are acclimated to all of what we're talking about here, right? Because a part of the program is going to be to educate them in the difference between wireless, fiber optics, et cetera.
Well, of course, times are changing, but when I think about let's say the traditional Mexican, we're both Mexican Americans, and hardworking, resilient, and are like MacGyvers. And some of you guys don't know who MacGyver is out there, but it was a show in the 80s where this guy, he could take a pocket knife and fix about anything.
Right.
So Mexicans also, man, I mean, self-sufficient, reliant, right? In a physical world, fixing the car or the machine. A lot of that has run out in this time and age. I've been to Colombia a few times. My dad's from Colombia. And you could go take your cell phone to get fixed, refurbished. In this country, you don't find places where they fix things anymore.
Right.
So I think that's a wonderful opportunity to get our people, our culture, learning how to fix things in this new technological age.
Yeah.
Right? Still being hands-on, being resilient, self-sufficient. That's a great thing.
And having just the basic connectivity. Of course, the system's not going to be able to play any games on it. It's not going to be, high tech, all this video stuff. Not made for that right now. But one day our vision is kind of larger. We see ourselves in that space, maybe even becoming an internet service provider ourselves, where from a nonprofit, we would be able to, offer those services. Because I've been talking to people across the country where they're excited to come out here. They recognize, the opportunity and the high need. The one challenge though that I'm seeing is that everything is being laid as far as this money and access to these BEAD dollars, these billions of dollars, and the money that's out there. A lot of the responsibility is being laid on the employees of the staff at the city, right? So like the IT director, the planning director, deputy city managers. There was a call just earlier this week, I think it was a San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, known as the SGV COG.
Yeah, SGV COG, right.
And they had a meeting with all the city administrators. Well, there's 31 cities, San Gabriel Valley. We only had 6 cities, man, that showed up, that was represented,
Yeah.
And this is to line up, to get in line for billions of dollars. And what I'm finding out, what I heard, because it was an hour and a half meeting, what I heard from a lot of the players, and it's no diss on them at all, right? I mean, they're busy managing the city's, computers, the security, cyber threats, their plate is full, man. So to have them add another thing like, okay, what's the digital divide about? How do we get infrastructure dollars?
Yes.
It's almost unfair.
Yeah.
And then you talk to the city leadership, like I had a conversation with the mayor just a few weeks ago, and he's all like, yeah, I'm relying 100% on our IT director, like that, right? So I just realized that that's where the problem is. So when you talk to city leadership, which I've done, from San Bernardino all the way into Huntington Park and everything in between. I mean, La Puente, El Monte, and Pomona, Ontario, leaders from all over that I've tried to get up to speed on what's happening.
Yes.
and they're in the same position. They're doing the same thing. Well, I'm relying on, my IT director,
Right.
who already has a full plate,
Full plate.
and is not going to be able to get there. So that's the problem right there. We got to insert another person that can take the lead
Yes.
for this opportunity at every city, right? Within the San Gabriel Valley, there has to be a point person that's dealing just with that issue.
Well, you're perfectly right. I got to tell you, most cities and police departments and big organizations, they all have some type of like governmental affairs or community affairs person that just focuses on the relationships between governments, community, and so forth.
Right.
So I would definitely think, the IT person's probably got his hands full, and there should be another champion or a mediator just for that position, right? As we move into the future.
Exactly, and it's well worth the investment, because we're talking about access to, here, at least in Pomona, millions, if not tens of millions of dollars for infrastructure, which will create, again, jobs, right? Income, economy. I mean, it just makes sense. But not enough are looking at it like that. But I hope this message, that we're creating here will start to turn the tide on that. One is to get community acclimated and educated. And we'll be advertising when those classes will launch, and they will be free, right? And it'll be in the evenings, and it'll be both in Spanish and English, right? So we'll get like a lot of the older, generation, like I said, who got leapfrogged over the technology explosion, that we'll be offering those courses to. But more importantly, to start talking to the city leadership to say, hey, this ain't going to get it, man. And what we're going to do is we're going to end up missing the boat on millions and millions of dollars that we just can't afford to miss the boat on this one, man. Andy, Pomona needs this, right? We need it. And, Spectrum is happy to, keep things right where they are. Frontier don't want no, they don't want no competition, and the wireless companies are like, hey, man, great opportunity, and they're doing it. They're getting
an average, a family would spend perhaps like $30 a month to get the internet that's 10,000 times faster, right, at an affordable price, that everyone in the house could connect at the same time with nothing slowing down.
That's right, man.
It makes a lot of sense, right?
That's right.
It's not going to cost us any more tax dollars.
No, it's not.
Right? It's going to take the leadership to champion the cause and to bring it to full effect here in Pomona, it seems like.
Right, yeah. It's going to take a minute. And, I think some of the council members have tried to jump in, but, they're not there yet, man.
Right.
They just don't get it. With everything else that's happening.
You said something, they don't get it. And that's I know a little bit of way around the computer and have things up, but it could seem to be a lot if you don't get the technology. And when we don't get things, we usually kind of just pass them over, right?
Right.
So
it is daunting, man. I mean, I remember when we first talked to the mayor, and he kept talking about, we got to get our Wi-Fi going, man. I go, it's not Wi-Fi, dude. It's fiber optics. It's different, you know.
No, but also, listen, just to clarity's sake, you can still get Wi-Fi over fiber optics.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it still come to my house, but through my router, I could still connect my devices wirelessly. But the main hub would be that 10 times faster.
Right.
Whatever.
The fiber
right
optics.
now, we're only getting 2.5G or 5G, right? So that's not very fast.
Well,
compared to
there's other challenges, with kind of wireless infrastructure, but you're right in what you say. It's fiber optics to and through the home, right? That's the ideal model. Of course, we all love the convenience of our cell phones and all of that, and so wireless will appear to be forever in the future, right?
Yeah.
There is the strategy for the wireless companies are saying, no, don't get fiber to the home, right? We'll take care of it, right? Yeah. So they're saying we can just put it from the pole and we can zoom it into your house, but there's lots of challenges with that. I mean, first of all, there's the health issues, that is not even being considered right now at the federal level. There's major challenges with that there's been over 1,000 studies that have showed that there's biological impact when significant RF radiation is emitted from the poles and, in proximity. Like your router at your house, I can't tell you how many, even my own family, my own grandkids, right, are by that router, and it's like pushing out 100 times more RF radiation than what is recommended to be accepted.
Right.
Right.
And, you know, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I was going to bring that up next, and thank you. Now I have questions about that.
Sure.
Right. Again, you're a little bit more informed, of course, than I am in this field. Now, one thing that I heard is that the 5G technology was like really kind of created by DARPA and the military, and they even created to weaponize it, like to fight off pirates. Like they can use like a 5G and shoot like a gun that would make your skin crawl, and it would disperse crowds, and so from what I understand, the history of again the beginning of 5G was a weaponized technology.
Right.
And then the second thing is, again, conspiracy theories out there. If they wanted to, I don't know, do something with all the little 5G, because there's many of them sporadically throughout, that some people wonder, can the government ever turn around and weaponize the 5G that we have in our community to emit certain frequencies that would create discord within us? Of course, the bees, the birds, all these invisible frequencies that we cannot see, but they have an effect on our environment. And just like you said, all this radiation is emitting from these routers and all this stuff, and nobody turns them off at night. They're affecting our sometimes, I don't know, perhaps our mood, our sleep. I heard some people even there's new symptoms out there that people are like allergic or they can't handle a lot of the radio frequencies, RF frequencies. Right.
They call it electromagnetic sensitivity, EMF or EMS.
EMS.
Right. And from EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, but it's all goes back to the the frequency of how the radiation is being pushed out there. And you're absolutely right about that. In 67 and 72, the Navy did 2 studies, and they found that it could be weaponized. But it's the frequency in which they're pushing out that radio frequency, right? So it can be depends upon the power, that you could push that out. A lot of conspiracy, theories that are out there in terms of what this means with regard to 5G. But it's as simple as this, man. I mean, it's as simple as this. The FCC, the body that was in charge of determining whether or not it is actually safe or not, has decided to not address the issue, right? So they've left it to the initial test that they did way back in 1996. How long ago was that, man? Right. About, 20 something years, almost, right? Yeah. That talks about the heat, right? And so the only basis by which this technology, the radio frequencies that come out of your phone, that come out of our routers, that come from the poles, is being measured is, will it burn you or not, right? And that's a ridiculous.
Larry,
that's a ridiculous measurement, because it does not address the biological impact,
right?
The DNA damage that it does. Again, going back to the thousands of studies that have proven that it does damage DNA. It does cause all these things. I mean,
and what frustrates me is you just said thousands of studies. So this is something that they're not just guessing about. So and again, thinking about American history, for years X-rays were given to pregnant women until someone said no, it's hurting them.
Exactly.
And doctors and scientists say no, it's not going to have any effect. It's
fine. Don't worry about it.
Same thing with leaded gas.
Right.
I saw a documentary about it, and for decades, this guy was trying to tell the world that this is hurting us, this lead in this gas. And he fought for years and years before they finally said, hey, maybe we should take lead out of gas. Cigarettes, 4 out of 5 doctors prefer Marlboro, right, because they're smooth
Same
or whatever.
Thing.
So again, so it seems like we have a long history of the industries manipulating data and falsifying information for wealth and profit.
Well, it's a playbook, right? It's a playbook that currently is being implemented for wireless technologies right now in terms of what the cigarettes companies did back in the 60s and 70s were like, oh man, we haven't done any studies. Does it cause lung cancer? We haven't done this. So now the wireless industry is basically saying the same thing, saying we haven't done any studies, on whether it causes biological harm or not. Yet again, going back to the thousands of studies, which can be found at AmericansForResponsibleTechnology.org. And there's a host of other websites that kind of talk about that. There's a wonderful doctor from Northern California that her name is Cindy Russell, and she has a website and takes a deep dive into all the things that you were saying, the harm that it can create to your vision, the neurological challenges, as well as ultimately cancer. Whenever you have, what do they call it? When you're slicing the DNA, right? When you're damaging the DNA, those are the things that causes cancer.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much the 5G as it is the overall technology. So the routers, like I have one of those RF readers, right? RF radiation readers that I took. I took to the park here at Washington Park, and behind the Rite Aid right there on Gary and Rio Rancho. And yeah, man, they're pushing out like about 100 times more radiation than what building biologists consider to be safe. So those people that work at Rite Aid, that work at the 99 cent,
out of sight, out of mind. If they don't know, if people are not conscious of things, they're just gonna.
And they're all like, and they're like sick all the time. Like my daughter, who didn't know a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, was a teaching at this one charter school, and she was tired all the time, falling asleep in class, almost falling asleep on the road, and she was just like, all in all, just bad health. Well, we found out later after she quit, thank God, that they had a cell tower right on top of her building. And that was the source of what was causing all of her problems. And a lot of people who are close to these cell towers, and close to the, where it's transmitting, are not feeling good, right? Like the people right there on Grand and Gary, where that big cell tower is behind, I think, the shoe store right there. I bet you those families, are not feeling well, and they're going to the doctors. The doctors, oh, you're fine. You don't know what's up. They're probably saying I can't sleep. All the symptoms, right? Cindy Russell does a great job of pointing out what all of the symptoms are that you can experience as a result of having this, radiation go through you. And it makes sense, man. I mean, you think about, what is the largest organ in our body, right?
Our skin.
The skin, right?
Yeah.
And what, what that's doing, the radiation is doing, that would, I mean, they're saying that it damages your organs, that it can damage your organs, man, and all this other stuff.
I remember hearing some years ago, it's don't put your cell phone, for guys, right there by your testicles, as you're driving or something.
Right.
And then for girls, don't put it in your breast, where they kind of keep your phone right there. Nobody talked to us about that so many years ago.
No, they're not. And you see these young girls who are the most vulnerable, right? They love carrying their cell phone in their back pockets. You see that all day long, right? And then all of a sudden, not to say that there's a relation to this, but it's worth studying. There's an increase in colon cancer. More and more younger people are getting colon cancer. Is on the rise in this area, right? The girls that have the breast cancer, right? The young girls have the breast cancer. You can see that the cell phone, and then a good friend of ours, Antonio Gonzalez from Southwest Voter Registration Project, passed away a few years ago, and this cat, he would be on his phone like this.
Right.
I mean, if you remember, he would be on the phone 24/7, right? Yeah. He would have it right there. Well, guess where the cancer came?
Really?
Right there. And there's many, many other anecdotal stories that I have. But like I said, this stuff has already been studied. And they show how for a kid that holds a cell phone like right next to his head, the radiation penetrates almost through 2/3 of his brain.
You got to be kidding me. I know when I learned this stuff, I 99% of the time I'm on speaker now.
Yeah. Good for you, man.
rather than doing this, I'm doing this. But
Yeah.
even having it a foot away from my head, that's still pretty effective.
Yeah, it's best to keep it away from you and never to hold it against your head. But a lot of our families, Andy, man, the parents, even my neighbor was like, yeah, oh yeah, I let my grandson play with the
Oh yeah,
phone
right.
all day long because his mom doesn't let him play with it, and I'm all like, oh my gosh, and
I
it's
have two small children now. I'm thinking now, I
yeah,
forget sometimes about these
yeah.
things. Híjole,
Yeah,
wow.
you gotta like. It's not a toy.
Right.
It's it's a tracking device.
Yeah,
What
that's
I
another
like
thing.
calling it.
Right, yeah. It's a tracking device. Yeah.
That is emitting the radiation, and we just don't know enough about how to keep it safe. I do, but the community at large doesn't, and that's part of the education
Right.
classes. It's just like anything else, bro. I mean, we first finding out about this stuff.
Yeah.
Now we got to start telling people
It's
about it, and
right.
that's why, again, man, why I'm so thankful you're doing this thing here, and man, doing some amazing work
Well,
and
thank you for championing the cause, a worthy
getting the word
cause.
out,
Yeah.
man. I think it's really important that people know that there's resources and there's ways to mitigate the challenges, right? They have, like, we're way ahead of the game on this stuff, right? They have, devices that you can,
The
you can
shields.
put, yeah, the shield that you can
Right.
put underneath your phone, you can put behind your phone.
And I wondered how effective those are. I mean, I've had stickers that I put on there, and it says, I get them on Amazon, and there's no way I don't know how to test them. You kind of just have to believe that they're going to work. I mean,
Yeah,
I wonder, like,
they're,
how is a
they're,
holographic sticker, going to work to reduce RF, frequencies coming out?
they have companies that specialize in all of that
Yeah.
that are providing these kinds of products. A friend of mine who's a building biologist who has her own company that does that, that produces those products. And
Yeah.
I'll send you the link, and then maybe you could share on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, so that you have that. But I think it's important that community families understand that the cell phone is not a toy. It shouldn't be held by your kids. They shouldn't hold it next to their head. It's dangerous. It causes them harm. And that there's resources that are out there on the web that families have already been through all this,
Yeah.
and they're talking about what are some of the resources they do to mitigate the challenges, right? Like everybody that lives right there down Grand next to that cell tower should know about what they can do to shield,
Yeah.
the constant radiation and what that means. And so
Something I do at my house because I've learned some about this stuff. You've inspired me to do a little research when you started talking about this a few years ago. Is one I bought one of those. It's a plug that I plug in, and I plug my router into that, and I could turn off my router
nice.
on and off. So like at nighttime, the thing is, I sometimes don't turn it off because my wife gets up earlier and she got to get on the computer and she wakes me up saying, "Where's that the remote?" So I wish I need to get better in the habit of just turning off the router every night when we go to sleep. The second thing is, of course, getting those little stickers, for some of our devices.
Yeah.
The third, and I don't know how effective this is, but when we're at the house, I tell my wife to use airplane mode.
Yeah.
Not use the cellular mode, but put it in airplane mode, and it connects to our wireless.
Right.
I don't know how effective it is, but I heard some tips that reduces some of the.
It does, yeah.
frequencies.
Put it in our airplane mode. If you're not using it, is always good. Never put it in your pocket. Never put it in your front pocket. Don't hold it against your head. I mean, check it out, man. I mean, the instruction set. Of course, nobody reads it, right?
Yeah, right.
That little book that comes with your cell phone.
Uh-huh.
It tells you on page, like 967
In
that
small print.
small print,
Yeah.
like hold it,
Yeah.
2 millimeters or centimeters away from your head, right?
Right.
Not to put it. And nobody reads that. Nobody does that,
Right.
right? And that's why headphones are important, and keeping it on speakers important, and
And what about Bluetooth headphones? I mean, is that?
the jury's still out on those
Still-
things,
still
man.
that, right?
I mean, because it's still wireless technology,
Yeah.
and it's fun, it's easy. Our kids are cool, but when you have a 10-year-old
Yeah.
with these two things in their ears and knowing, because their skulls are a lot thinner.
Yes, that's
Because they're still developing, right? And this is not me speaking; it's the studies that have been done. That I was
right.
the website at Americans for Responsible Technology.org. Their site has this information where these studies have been done, and there's pictures saying that the smaller the child is, the thinner their skull is, the deeper the radiation penetration goes into their brains, right?
Yeah.
So it's problematic, and it's a challenge. But it's a matter of just letting people know what's going on, and there what the one lady had put it this way. She goes, Hiroshima, the people didn't start dying of cancer there until 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
It's a long-term thing, man. So the wireless companies can say whatever they want. Oh, what? This guy had it against his head for the last, whatever years, and he's still fine, but what does that mean, right?
Well, George Burns smoked it till he was 102 years old. I mean, it's like, smoking's not going to kill everyone, but it's sure going to kill a lot of people, right?
But you should at least understand what the challenges are, what the opportunities are to mitigate those challenges. But it goes really kind of circles all the way back, Andy, to kind of economics, And
that's why we're here. That brought us. How do we make our city a more economically viable community?
Exactly.
With the right technology.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah. And the mission of the wireless industry is to let's do it all wireless. Let's get, let's put up 5G. Let's do all this stuff. Before you do that, you got to realize that, okay, it's going to cost us in a 10-year window 2, 3, 4 times as much to have that infrastructure in place. We miss out on the free money that's coming from the Biden administration and from, Gavin Newsom. And the economic opportunity, the jobs that would have been created as a result of getting that money is also missed, right? And we don't want to be in that situation. And so, we need to work harder. And that's why we're launching these classes, in the beginning of December. And hopefully we're going to be sending some computers home to some of the families that that don't currently have a technology. Of course, again, they're refurbished systems. They're not brand new. You won't be able to play any games on them, but it'll keep you connected, and it will get you the information you need, through the device that you have at your house. So that's really cool.
So as we kind of bring things to a close, one, I'd like you to, like you said, when you talk to the mayor, he's going to rely on his IT guy. So if we had all the IT guys in the room with us from the SGV that are going to talk to their mayors and the city managers, what would you tell them? Right? How would you convince them to champion this cause?
I think it's important that it didn't seem like a lot of them understood that the BEAD dollars were on the way, and that they may have not. They most likely do not know the history on how the telephone companies for the last 3 decades have collected billions in dollars in fees and taxes to actually upgrade our infrastructure, which is important for sustainability. I mentioned that only for the sustainability aspect of it, because the BEAD dollars are going to represent a one-time influx of $1.83 billion for California, but as Selwyn Hollins, who's the director for the Delete the Divide program for LA County. Great guy, super smart, really down to earth, could talk to people. He put out a video saying the same thing. He goes, 1.83 billion sounds like a lot of money. He goes, but even if LA County got all that money, it still would not serve to close the digital divide.
Oh, wow. Really?
And so knowing that, those dollars are scarce before they even hit here, man.
Yeah.
Right? So it is important for us to say, okay, what's going to be the long-term plan? The long-term plan would be to claw back some of those dollars that have been collected over the last 3 decades, or have the corporations, either return that money or agree to their commitment, which was to actually replace all of your copper with fiber optics. I don't know if you knew that was the plan, man. The plan was that they were collecting and going to upgrade everybody, and then they decided to. In 2010, I think they said, "No, we ain't going to do that no more." After
they collected all that.
After they collect all that money, and so when they stopped that, that's what caused the part of what caused the digital divide, right? And then the law was passed and said, "No, you don't gotta put fiber in there. It's okay." And
of course, those the people that created these policies with our legislators. Often they have lobbyists that are paid to do a lot of talking and convincing to our elected officials to make decisions that are beneficial for the corporation rather than the community.
it's their business plan, man. It's to maximize what's
Profit, right?
your Verizon, your AT&T, your Frontier. What's your mission? Maximize profit
That's right.
for shareholder interest,
shareholders.
right? That's the goal, and so we have to understand that their business model is not to close the digital divide. So every
Right.
time we look at them and think that they're going to be compassionate, in any way, try to understand what that means.
Not true.
That's not in their business model. That's not what they get paid for. We got to be real about that. And then to my group of IT directors that I'm talking to, I'm saying we got to be clear on that and know that collectively we must find another alternative, right? We must look to the independent provider, the municipal broadband models that can then offer, all of the same things that a Verizon or that a Frontier or that a Spectrum may be able to offer, but at the local level, under local control, right?
We have our own police department here,
right? And
we
for
don't
local
contract with the
interests,
sheriffs, we have our own because our local interests. So again, this model has been used.
It's
in different
been used
ways.
over and over again,
right?
and this is only another thing that we need to do. That's how we have to look at it. This to look at the the incumbent players, these guys, Frontiers, the Verizons, or the Spectrums, that they're going to do it for us. There ain't no way,
Right.
and you know what, that they're going to do it for us, because again, it's not their business model, right? Let's be real with that, right? And as soon as we can get that wrapped around our heads, then people are going to say, okay, well, how do we do this? What do we want to do? Let's figure out. Let's get another body. Let's throw another body at the city so they can be on top of this 24/7. Because our IT director, he's busy, right? He don't have time to do any of this. I mean, that's what the mayor told me as well. He was like, yeah, he's busy with other things. He's doing other things. I get that, man. We all get that. We all understand. People are, doing their thing. But when a new opportunity comes along to say that, oh, well, we can't take advantage of that because we don't have the capacity, I mean, for me, that's a cop-out, man. And it's like, okay, well, let's fix that. Let's work towards, we've done other things to fix stuff, right? Like that on the drop of a hat, right? This is what we need to do here. We need to throw another body at it that understands it, gets it, and can advocate, for the city to get the grants, to get the money, to bring in the right resources. Those are the folks that we need, and they're all over, man. There's people all over the country, and the best example, though, of what's not working is that meeting that I attended a couple of weeks. No diss on SGV COG. I mean, they did the best they could, and again, the staff is taking it, they're receiving it where they're at.
Right.
So where they're at is not like, oh, hey, man, I can get my whole community connected. This could mean so much more money for our city. They're not seeing it like that.
Yeah.
They're saying, okay, are there any holes? Do I have to plug any holes? What's the emergency? And it seems like, oh, we're kind of okay.
Yeah.
Every city right now they're kind of okay.
Kind of okay.
Right?
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And so there's not a 5-alarm fire going on, where people got to get on this. But that's how we have to treat it, because again, the money's going to come, and you've seen this, this happens, man, right over us, right? Yeah. And we are just left high and dry, man, with nothing.
So we need champions, right? Now, we're going to close this podcast off, and now I'd like you to share with the community. There are people like me watching, other family members watching. What can an average person do to help champion the cause in our own way? I mean, do I call my local legislator? Do I fill a petition? I mean, what can we do to help push this great cause forward?
Yeah, you contact me at would be the first thing to try to set up maybe a meeting. We could do a coffee clutch at your house. Bring some neighbors over. Let's talk about it. I mean, specifically the families that are near the high frequency radiation places.
I'd love to see a map of Pomona where all these cell towers are at.
Yeah.
And maybe do a study. Imagine we had Cal Poly students, do some type of study or statistics and outreach to really get a grasp on
that would
what's
be
going on?
that would be amazing. I did kind of informally. I went to the Grand in Gary location where they had that cell tower, and then I went to Washington Park. You think about all the kids and the moms and the dads that are there for so long, just being bathed in 100 times more radiation than what is recommended by building biologists.
Oh my gosh!
And then in the spot behind the Rite Aid, Rio Rancho and Gary right there. So there's those 3 hot spots that y'all need to be, kind of consumed about. But contact me at 909-629-9212 or my email address, la@laortega.com. We can have a small neighborhood meeting, get you guys informed of some of the resources. I can email you, some of the contacts and information how to mitigate some of these challenges. That's kind of the first step. But the next step would be to attend the meetings and the classes that we're going to have over at Centro de Semillas over there on 8th and White. And we'll be doing classes there in the beginning of December, hopefully be able to give away a couple of computers. And then the last thing is to just ask questions of your political leadership, the city councils, when you see the assembly members, see the senator, hey, what about, are we going to get our fair share of that money? How do we educate more of the community? Asking them, what is the strategy in terms of getting more of the community educated and acclimated to first the opportunity, and then second, some of the dangers, and then third, we don't want to be in that spot oh man, we didn't take advantage of that. That's my most important thing. That's why I'm so thankful for that you got this, Andy.
Yeah.
And you have this mechanism to communicate to the community, is because I hope this reaches some ears of some people that, we do need to come together collectively. We've got to start having more meetings and, getting everybody acclimated. But it's going to, like everything else, bro, it takes,
time and effort.
Takes time and effort, and it takes everybody.
Right.
So thank you again for the opportunity. And
Awesome.
I like how you said, talk to the IT directors. That was pretty cool, man. Thank you for letting me do that.
We got to get them all in a room, huh? Or, create at least one training video where all
could see it
in their own time.
Right, could see the history.
Right.
Can know that.
So, I open up my office, our podcast studio. We have all the equipment here. If you ever want to do a presentation, we'll make it happen for you.
All right, man. That's awesome.
One last thing I thought about is that, if I go to Starbucks or Raising Cane's, or just about any place now, there's that little sign that that warns people that there are cancer-causing agents within the facility.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I've seen those.
Right. Because it's by law now that they have to have it if there's something in there.
Yeah.
Perhaps there should be some type of signage again where there's a cell tower, or there should be some visible signage that this is potentially harmful.
It is.
That should be a policy.
There actually are.
My goodness.
The signs are actually there, except that I think at Washington Park, because it's on top of the snack bar, right? So I don't know how close the signs are, but there's some signs, but you can't read them.
I haven't recognized. I haven't seen any.
You can't read them, and most people think it's all cool because nobody's talking about that. It's not cool.
And I just want my Wi-Fi. That's all that matters.
That's it, man. Just give me my cell phone. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You're not gonna. And we're not talking about taking any of this away. We're not saying these should go away or that they shouldn't be improved, the technology. Not at all. All we're saying is that make yourself aware of some of the dangers, because it ain't all that. Like you said, with the lead, the cigarettes, the the X-rays.
Years later, we find out.
Yeah, the X-rays, all that stuff, man. I mean, gosh.
And I know plenty of sick people. I'm sure you know plenty of sick people that are dealing with cancer right now and all this stuff, and it's not on their radar. That's something potentially harmful that they can't see is affecting them, right? Yeah. Sleeping next to their router that's in their bedroom, or their child's, because it just happens to be
convenient.
The convenient,
the convenience of it. Yeah, that's
Gee whiz.
Super dangerous, man. And like I said, the more that people know, the better it's going to be. And we only need a few, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, we only need 20, 30 families from the hood, man. They just get together and, then they lead with how it works, man.
Absolutely.
And they lead the rest of the communities. And
never doubt that a small group of people can make a tremendous change,
man.
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
So whatever years this is falling on, man, Thank you guys for listening. Thanks again to Andy Quinones for all his great work. Making this thing happen is so important for Pomona. I was so pleased, man, that you're making this happen, dude. And I wish you all the best and continued success, brother.
Well, thank you, Larry, for joining us here at the Pomona Promise Network podcast.
Yes,
We're so grateful that you brought this information and that you're championing a worthy cause for the long term of Pomona.
Thank you, man.
We hope we get some good feedback from this video.
Yeah.
And remember, follow the advice. Learn more, become conscious, talk to others about it, and then if you happen to run into a elected official, please share your concerns, and hopefully we'll get some traction and really make the difference in our part of the world, huh?
Yeah, and feel free to contact me. I got a lot of world of information, and I'm available. I mean, that's my whole mission, man. When I was 6 years old, that I used to go to the neighbor's house that lived behind us, and I would walk by, and back then the Daily Bulletin used to throw the paper like right on the sidewalk or in the street in your driveway, and I was a little kid that would go take the neighbor's paper to their door, right? Because I love community. I believe in community. I could be doing anything, man. Right. My thing is making sure that our community has full access to the resources that are available to them, that were designed for them. And the reason why I feel like that is because I got a shot, bro. I shouldn't have got to Cal Poly, but for the affirmative action, which they did away with, I wouldn't have been there. Yeah. But that got me in there through the EOP program. I went in as an undeclared major because, again, my grades weren't there. But, I was excited. I wanted to go, and, I had a story to tell. I said, my dad told me that when, I was 12 years old, 13 years old, he goes, you can work with your back in construction and do all you want to do. He goes, but if you get hurt, man, game over. He goes, now you have a chance to go to college and do all this stuff. And he goes, when I was a kid, I couldn't get a job in the fire department because I was Mexican, and they were able just to tell you that straight up. 1953, they could just say, hey, we're not hiring Mexicans. And that was the end of the day, boom, the end of the game, and that was it. And he would tell me, you could do it now. So when I shared that story with the EOP director, he was all like, okay, let's give this cat a shot. And he gave me a shot to get into Cal Poly, and I did okay. I had my grades high enough to stay there. And even though I was on the 9-year program, got married, had kids, bought a house, it's still, I was able to do what I needed to do, got to law school, met my very best friend and one of my best friends in law school, and he was in a nonprofit, and he was the one that kind of got me. And so now, you look at this 30 years later, bro, when I first launched Community Union, I've impacted tens of thousands of lives, have touched, through the television news agencies that have covered us, 30 million plus people on this message. And so I know, how to do this, man. I know how to get the message out. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're coming back to. And so you're the launch point, brother, man. Thank you.
Larry Ortega, thanks for joining us today,
All right, man. All right, Andy.
All right,
thanks,
Pomona.
man.
Peace.
There it is, man. Very good.